Hello, this is Dr. Jay Hartley, and welcome to Saturday Night Live in St. Augustine, Florida. It is November the 4th, 2023, and we're lucky enough to have the president of Palmer, Florida with us tonight, Bill Sherrier, and I had a chance to meet with him a few months ago, and I really liked what he had to say, and I'm feeling really good about the future of Palmer, Florida, and we're excited to listen to Dr. Sherrier. Here he is.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have to be honest. I'm going to start out with a little honesty at first. When Dr. Danita asked me if I would be willing to do this, I declined. Initially. I declined because I didn't think I had anything to say. I mean, I wasn't sure that, what do a group of chiropractors that are doing really well and doing great things out there and students, what do they want to hear from me? And I just couldn't think of anything. I said, Danita, let me think about it a little bit, and I'll get back to you. And I said it really nicely with love and everything else. And then I went to a couple conferences, and I remember the last conference I went to, the last chiropractic conference I went to. I was met with a couple of, I won't say it was hostile, but I was met with a little pushback on or things about, negative things about chiropractic college and Palmer specifically, and I kind of took that to heart. So I felt like I needed to, at that moment, any opportunity I have to come out and speak to anyone, I will. So kind of set the record straight right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And some of the things were like, well, during COVID, we will never support your college, and this was graduates of ours. We will never support our alma mater because you were forcing everyone to have a vaccination. I just don't know where they got that from. I don't understand where that came from. It's certainly not something we would ever do. I'm not sure that I would work for a place that would force something like that. So there's lots of comments like that, and I thought, okay, well, I need to set the record straight and maybe get myself out a little bit more. A little bit about myself. I'm a 1989 graduate of Life University. Do we have Life? We have some Life graduates in here, yes. Okay. And Palmer graduates? Okay, gotcha. So, and others, yes? Where did we graduate from? Logan, okay. So I graduated in 1989. My first 8-9 years I practiced in Pennsylvania, Jersey. I was more in the, more of like the PI practice type of situation. When I was practicing in that manner, I was fortunate enough to practice with a group in two separate groups, one in Pennsylvania, one in Jersey. They were both educating our patients on what chiropractic care was, so I was okay with that. Many of our patients, when we discharged them from active care, they ended up becoming lifelong patients. They became wellness patients. So I was okay with that too. Okay, so however we had gotten our patients in, we were able to educate them what chiropractic is, and we were able to move on from there. But it's somewhere in me, I felt like that wasn't where I wanted to be. We decided to move to Florida. One of the first chiropractors I met, Dr. Mindy Weingarten, kind of changed my trajectory quite a bit. In my mind, I always felt that I wanted family wellness. I wanted to see all ages. And I just mentioned this a minute ago, but Mindy introduced me to Dr. Danita Hagee, Dr. Mike O'Connor. I ended up covering their practices shortly after I had gotten licensed in Florida. And forever grateful for that, because I've always felt strongly about the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic, but in my previous positions as a more of a PI doctor, I felt like I really wasn't seeing what that looked like until I met Dr. Weingarten, Dr. Hagee, and also Dr. O'Connor. So covering their practices, it really flipped a switch with me. Like, this is where I felt like I was starting all over. Even though I had practiced 8-9 years, I felt like I was starting from day one again, and it was so exciting and rejuvenating for me. Moved to Florida, hit the reset button. I don't suggest doing that. If you start a practice somewhere, kind of stay there in that area. Don't pick up and move. All my contacts, I had to start completely over. And again, I was really grateful for the mentorship. I established a practice, chugged along there, covered on the side. Palmer, Florida landed there, in Port Orange. So it came to town. I really didn't give it too much of a thought. I tried to think back at that time. I remember we had students coming to my office to shadow me. I thought that was great. I really loved interacting with them. I think I had to fill out an application to make sure that I didn't have 3 heads and I wasn't practicing with crystals and things like that. So I filled out the application about my education, things like that. The dean at the time called me and asked me if I was interested in working for Palmer as a part-time clinician. I said, well, I'm just starting my practice, so let me go over to Palmer and see what they have to offer. And she showed me the clinic that I would be working in, and the clinic was probably, I don't know, from that wall to that door, this closer wall. It was this tiny, I'm like thinking, this is a chiropractic college and this is where we're gonna start? Okay. So I came on board with Palmer, Florida, and part-time was never part-time, it was always full-time. So I morphed into more of a full-time work at Palmer. I was a clinic doctor there for probably about 4 years, and I was still practicing all the while. And then I ended up transferring over to the classroom where I taught technique for quite a few years, 10, 12 years, somewhere in there, which I really loved. I connected with the students, I enjoyed it, I still practiced on the side, and everything was beautiful. My mentor, Dr. Don Gran, my academic mentor, said, "Hey, Bill, you seem to love teaching. You're doing a great job. We have a position as a director. Would you consider that?" I said, "Oh, sure." Like, it seemed like I was game for anything. "Oh, yeah, sure. I'm having a great time. Maybe I'll apply to be a director." I became a director. Director positions, after a while, we did a little restructuring, and we ended up moving towards associate deans. I said, "Oh, this is kind of getting a little serious now." So I applied to become an associate dean, and I became that associate dean of clinical sciences. I felt like I needed a little bit more education, so I applied to University of Central Florida and had gotten my master's degree in applied learning and instruction, and that set me on a different trajectory. I've been really enjoying my time at Palmer all this while, engaging with our alumni now and our current students, and the academic dean position came around, and I said, okay, well, I feel like I'm qualified for that, but I'm not so sure that I want to do that right now. An associate dean works directly with students, directly with faculty, and I really love that. I just love that interaction. I felt pretty influential in that regard on how to teach effectively and also educate our students effectively. So I applied for the academic dean position, but then I withdrew my application. And the powers that be in the Palmer verse I don't know, I think I took them aback a little bit by doing that. And I just explained I wasn't ready at this time. I just, I like what I'm doing. We had another dean eventually take that position, and I'd like to say things went well, but they didn't. She ended up leaving probably before that she thought she was going to be leaving. So she didn't stay with us very long. And then at that time, and things were going not well. It was right during COVID, we're coming out of COVID. I thought at that time I was ready. And I also saw when you have the wrong people, and nothing against her, but when you have the wrong people in those positions, things can go horribly wrong very quickly. And we were heading in a direction that for the person that was there, I started in 2003, I'm pushing 21 years. The college has been there for 21 years. I'm right behind. I think I started maybe 4 months after the college started. When you're invested that much and you see it going in a wrong direction, you just can't help but to jump in there and say, you know what, I'm going to put my hat in this ring and see if I can make a change. So I became the Dean of Academic Affairs. I served in that role just under 3 years. And when Dr. Peter Martin retired as president, I said, here we go again. I said, I've had this experience with an outsider coming in. It didn't go great. I didn't have a good feeling. We have a great campus culture. I'd like to do my part to maintain that. So I applied for the campus president position. And they did a nationwide search. I'm glad they did that. It was very objective. And circled back, and they landed back on me. And I'm very I was very proud of that moment, but at the same time, I think that, gosh, couldn't you do any better? You did this nationwide search, and I'm the best you can come up with. So, joking aside, I've been with that college for a long period of time. We've had a rocky start. Mindy, I know that you and I were counseling our students back then. You would come over, we'd practice Gonstead together, and using the equipment over there, and it was a little bit of a shaky start, but I think over the years we are really coming into our own now. I think the college, 21 years is a relatively short time. We are in a transition period. The transition is going from a quarter curriculum to a trimester curriculum. So that means we have 2 calendars going right now. So for example, October 3rd, early October, the quarter system started, quarter students that we have now, and October 31st, November 1st, the trimester students started. So we have 2 going at the same time, and they overlap each other. We have lots of students on campus, and then all of a sudden we have students, but we don't have that many, but they're still there, and like, we're on the break, and why are there people still here? So things are a little crazy. To add to that, we are also changing our curriculum. We were an integrated curriculum at first, and that served us well for many years, but now we are moving more to a traditional curriculum, just like Davenport has. So we'll have eventually, when this is all said and done, 2 strong colleges, 1 curriculum, 1 college, 2 strong campuses. So with all that change, it's a perfect opportunity. I was chatting with Mindy about this a minute ago. Perfect opportunity to make sure that the things that were going wrong, or we felt were going wrong, to correct them. We have an obligation to our quarter students, so that college was built on the foundation of the quarter students, and I have a place in my heart for those students that are going through, and I don't want them to feel that we're pushing them out, but when quarters are going this way and trimesters are coming in, inherently they may feel that way. So it was my goal as academic dean to make sure that our board scores were improved and maintained, and I'm happy to say that, gosh, the past 2 years, our Part 1 board scores, magically somehow, because they seem to change their mind on lots of things and how they deliver that exam, we have been ahead of the all-college average for the past 2 years. So I'm super excited about that. I'm excited for our quarter students that they're getting what they need as they're making their way on out. So we're planning on maintaining that. I've practiced, gosh, a total of 25 years. I think part of the problem with my predecessor as academic dean, really no practice experience. So how can you guide or influence a curriculum or a college when you haven't really practiced? So you have to have that in you. You also have to understand the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic. And if you don't understand that there is a balance of all 3, the way you should practice, it's going to be a little difficult for you moving forward. So that was my little journey there. And I have to say, if I'm being honest, no aspirations of being campus president. It's not something that I thought I would want to do or thought about doing. But when you're passionate about something, sometimes it calls you and guides you in that direction. So for students, I think the message there is always keep an open mind and be open to opportunity, because you never know where the profession is going to lead you. So that brings us to chiropractic education. What does that look like now? It's a lot different than when we were students, a lot different. I think the core is there, but the manner with which we deliver is different. The generation is different. Some of us are 2, maybe, I know I'm 3 generations removed from Gen Z that is occupying our halls right now. So how do we relate to that? How do we connect with our current students? And it's a tall order. So some of the things I want to, I had to write them down because I'm not good with lists. I have to read off lists, not memorize them. But Generation Z, we have to think about them for a minute. They're under 24 years old. They're 24 years of age and younger. Technology is innate with them. Unlike millennials, it happened somewhere as they were growing up. They had an iPhone and they took off from there. But Gen Z was born with one in their hands, right? I was about to introduce myself to the new class the other day, and I was standing there waiting to go in, and one of the campus guides was next to me with these nice long nails, and my thumbs couldn't move that quick. She was moving them so fast, both of them, and I said, wow, like I was actually frightened that the speed with which she was texting. She goes, yeah, we were pretty much born with this in our hands. I'm like, oh, what? I see. So some things about them. So technology is innate with them. They are creators and collaborators, and I love that. And these are generalizations, but I love that they're collaborators, because I know when I was asked to be in a group, to do group work when I was younger in college, like, no, just give me the assignment, let me do it, and I'm on my way. But this cohort are collaborators. They are going to be part of a healthcare team at some point. They're going to have to interact with others, right? So I think that's great. They communicate with images rather than texting, so they like images. So when you think of Instagram, TikTok, that's their world. Facebook, X, what we call it now, right? Twitter. They're not so much into that. They'd rather see an image rather than something else. This is what I really like as well, is that they are realists rather than optimists. I mean, optimism is great, but at the end of the day, you need to be a realist about where you're heading, right? So they want to work for success, love it, rather than wanting to be discovered like their predecessors. So the millennials wanted to be discovered. The Gen Z is willing to work for it. So I think all great qualities, you know, so we have to look at how they learn. We just had a faculty in service recently about Generation Z, how they learn, how they act. How can we teach them better? How can we be more effective? How can we design the campus better for their learning opportunities? So when you come to our campus, you'll see that there's areas where there's lots of chairs, there's couches, there's comfortable furniture, there's areas where they can sit with power stations and plug in and talk, but they like those kinds of environments. Gen Z, good stuff. On the downside, they are an anxious, and I've read a couple places where depression is pretty high in that generation. And that makes me sad. Think about, so they've been around for up to 24 years, right? They've never experienced 9/11, but since birth, as soon as they were aware, every year they're reliving it as we're trying not to forget, right? So if you think about them hearing about this and learning about just that particular moment, you kind of think to yourself, wow, they're basically have grown up with fear. They're like, the world looks like it could be a terrible place. So there's one example. Gun violence. That's pretty commonplace. It wasn't like that when we were younger, right? So they grew up with gun violence. Climate change, that's always there, right? Climate change is there, so we're concerned with that. Politics, very politicized. You know, we've lost civility somewhere along the way. So how do you educate? How do you educate our next generation of chiropractors? So what we do is my opening line to the new class that came in last week. It was our record-breaking class, by the way, so we had 162 students enrolled. So I stood there and I'm usually not nervous in front of large groups of students because I've taught for many years. But when I saw 162, not only were there a lot of them, but then I realized the responsibility that you have to make sure that they get what they need. So my line was something like, you are about to enter into a profession that is dedicated to the health and well-being of others. You have a significant impact. You can have a significant impact on the value of the quality of their life, the value of how they live, and also the communities that they serve, right? So that is really the message. So when we think about all these horrible things in this global chaos that it seems to be happening right now, what a better way to heal what a better way to move forward, what a better thing, I can't think of a better thing to be part of that where you can instill some change to kind of counter some of those things. So I think our students inherently, by becoming a chiropractic student, they are joining something that is positive, that they can make a difference, that they can do something different. They can do something about us now that we seem like we're spiraling a little bit. And we've had this generation after generation, there's always been something, right? But right now it seems like a lot. So that's my message to them. And that will continue to be the message whenever the opportunity arises, that, you know, we have a really great profession. We have the ability to change people's lives and change our communities. So when we think about the connection between the spine and its relationship between the spine and well-being and health, I think we need to be reminded as practitioners of the impact that we're having on our patients, especially now with the earth spinning on a different axis, right? So I think that is something that we need to remind ourselves. We all know the benefits of chiropractic care. We know patients who are not functioning well, they're experiencing pain, whatever. We take care of those things. We try to help restore function. But we also do all those other things too. Patients who come in with migraines, asthma, they're not sleeping well, they can't remember the last time they had a bowel movement. So all those other things too that we are helping with. We all know that. We all know the power of chiropractic. Something I want to remind you of is that mind-body connection, however, because I do sense that people are on edge. And when we think in terms of mind-body connection, we need to understand that people, their physical, or I'm sorry, their mental and their emotional stress is taking a toll on their physical being. It's manifesting. So I do think that we need to engage with our patients a little bit more in that regard. So I'm going to open it up a little bit to you all. Like, what does that mean to you? I know that, I'll give an example from when I was practicing and things seem to be terrible. I would just stop, and ask them, how you feeling? Like, how are you feeling about what's going on in the world today? It's kind of crazy, right? And I'm kind of giving a kind of a positive spin, but then I want to see where they're at. And most of the time when they're on the table, I talk about health. That's pretty much it. When we're done, when we sit up and we're heading out to make our next appointment, that's usually when I engage with the patient. So I'll ask them, and usually that ends up with some kind of dialogue. Is there anything that I don't know if you're experiencing this now with your patients or not, or is there anything that you think about or you want to say to them, or do they bring it up to you? Anybody?
They tend to just generalize everything, the world's crap, the markets are bad, and I'm like, boy, that's a big picture of everything going on is bad. Really?
Yeah.
What'd you do today? Well, I went to the gym, I worked out. I'm like, so isn't that a reflection of good? Because I always just tell them, you're painting the whole world with one brush.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, a lot of times, practicing and even now, having the patients focus on themselves. If they're in pain, okay, let's get you out of pain, let's get you back functioning, back in the game. Then it's your family, because if you're of no use to your family if you're not functioning well, right? So, and then we go one step further. Once they're better and re-engage, now engage with the community. Like, give back, do something, right? So I think that my message to students is like, you are entering a really great profession. You are able to change people, the quality of their life, and the communities that you serve. And in this world right now, there can't be a better thing to do, right? So I think that's helpful. I think that's helpful to them. So anyone else? Even engaging, practicing, not practicing, engaging with people?
We instituted an act of kindness week. So each month we have an act of kindness, and we just change what we collect for different places around. And, I think that really helped with people realizing that I'm good, I can help.
Yep.
I don't have to hold it all.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's empowering too for them to like, oh, I'm doing something. Because otherwise you can just sit and go home and watch the news every evening and just feel kind of helpless, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great.
You know, a lot of times, not always, but you know, you just touch your patients before, when you get to know their spine, you know when things are different.
Sure.
You can just be like, whoa, something's going on. And talk to them like you're extra tight, anything going on, and especially during COVID, you're feeling this more often. A lot of times it's just like, turn the news off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but you know, those people, you know, you don't even know which side they're on, but those people, you see what, oh yeah, they're doing it bad. You know, let's get your adjustment. And those people and those, one was talking Democrats, one was talking Republican, but you could feel that, and you're like, you know what would happen if you didn't watch the news for a week? Well, I gotta know. Like their subluxation patterns, their stress in their life is caught up in the world, and a lot of times just tell them, you know, turn it off. And we talk about exercise. Say, hey, the people who live to 100, most popular exercise in the world is take a walk. Just like, take a walk.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. There's many times when I would tell a patient, you know, I knew that single mom or a single parent was heading home, and the kids were waiting, the sitter is there waiting for them to get home, stressed out, late, almost didn't come to their appointment. You know what? They'll be fine. My practice was on A1A, maybe a block and a half from the beach. Go over to the beach, take a 10-minute walk. It's not going to take you very long. Just take some deep breaths in, walk a little bit, get back into your car. Don't turn the radio on. Don't turn your music on in the car. Just be in silence and drive back home, and then continue. Just reminding them to take a minute for themselves, right? I remember chiropractic school like it was yesterday sometimes, and I was always I was one of those students. I went in, went out, nothing really. I didn't sense anything bothered me really. I just did my thing. Didn't really participate or engage with too much. I was married, had a little one at home, so I kind of just did my thing. And I remember one of the clinic doctors who I was very close with. Like, she just somehow adopted me. I don't know what I did. Maybe I brought my son in and she thought he was cute and whatever. I don't know. But she was so sweet to me and so nice, and I think of her often. And all she said to me one day was, "Are you okay?" And that's all she had to say. And I broke down and cried. Like, and I'm not a crier in that regard, right? So like, and I don't even know where it came from, but all she did was ask me if I was okay. Maybe she sensed I was busy and stressed and whatever. And I remember she closed the door and she sat me down, and I was like, "What's happening?" And I'll never forget. She said, you promised me you will take 10 minutes, just 10 minutes every day, and just, whether you're sitting in McDonald's having a cup of coffee, you're sitting in your car in the parking lot with the windows open and enjoying the breeze. And I'll never forget those words, and they were so helpful to me. So yeah, just telling them like simple things to do like that. So, anyone else? Okay.
Well, you mentioned about getting well and then give to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this split, an assumed split, it sounds like, that there's the world outside of me,
Mm-hmm.
the news, current events, and then there's me here. When I'm not sure there is an outside world, because how can I experience anything outside? You know what I mean?
Somewhat. Go on.
Everything that happens to me happens through my perception,
Right.
coming in through my
Okay.
senses.
Sure.
And so the idea of living with this accepted that there's the outside world and then there's the inside world, I don't know if there's any separation.
No.
What you focus on, I think so. Like, I can focus on my office, or I can focus on the news. And so yeah, that outside world's going to be in my body. I agree with
Yeah.
that. But if my perception is the news, I'm going to be upset at people who are not doing it my way. You know. But if I focus on this space right here, I'm going to be in
That's it.
bliss and joy. So you're right. It is
If
your
there-
reality, but where's
yeah,
your focus?
I'm saying if there's some way, I don't know exactly how, because every moment is different. But if there's some way to let these people know, and including let myself know, that how I live with my perception affects is the world.
Yeah, I got you. As
How
you
do
were,
you do that?
right, as you were talking, I was looking at, thinking about an analogy of this office, your offices, people coming through the door, they're bringing the outside with them on the inside, right? And how many times in practice you're going from patient to patient to patient, interacting with them, forgetting about everything else that's going on out there, you know, and it's good and it's great energy, and patients are enjoying themselves and having a good experience, and they're feeling better. So there you're taking, there's a nice connection,
Yeah,
right?
that's how you change the world.
Exactly. Palmer, Florida, our campus has a really good campus culture. COVID really tried to change that. We've had a couple other issues recently that are trying to change that, but inherently the campus is a really good campus, and I know what that campus looks like. I believe that I was chosen to be this leader at Palmer to maintain it, to continue it. I fully understand the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic. There are a couple of things that, as we are changing our curriculum and things like that, as I've moved into this position, I have an opportunity to maybe influence faculty around teaching different things which they're really enjoying doing. Kind of making sure, you know, being a steward of that science, art, and philosophy, and making sure that each of those components are getting equal time. As a practitioner, I always felt that, you know, if I went to X school and I didn't have the philosophy, I don't know if I'd feel like a therapist, or something would be missing. That philosophy is really what drives your practice. It separates us from everyone else that manipulates, moves the spine, right? So I feel like it's a privilege, it's an honor for me to be in this position where I can influence that. Prior to, I'm not politicizing anything, but like all I can speak to is what our college has been up to this point. We've been very much leaned towards FCA. You know, my predecessor was that was his realm, that was his people. I'm equal opportunity. I'm all about chiropractors. So I will be at FCA, I will be at FCS. Next week we have a contingent of FCS coming to campus to speak to students as a panel about, you know, the importance of getting involved, engaging with state organizations, things like that. I love. Teresa Hartley is a graduate of ours. She is the president of FCS right now, I believe. No? Okay.
Brian Moriarty is
Oh,
the president.
Brian, okay, Brian. So
He's also an alumni of yours.
Gotcha. Yep, taught them both. And I've spoken with both of them, and you know, I just, you know, and getting an invite, like, why aren't we going to FCS conferences? Why are we always going to FCA? Like, so in comes Bill Sherrier. So I definitely would like to be inclusive as a college. You know, our campus is strong. Our enrollment is through the roof. So with this large class that just came in, we just surpassed the main campus in Davenport in numbers. So pretty incredible for this little campus that's chugging along, that we weren't sure if it was going to make it early on, you know. So I think it's doing really well. So our enrollment is really high as a campus, not as a college, as a campus. We are definitely the third largest. We might very well be the second largest in the country. So that's pretty incredible. That's a lot of students, and a lot of students that we can influence to become alums that are moving forward. So the weight of that responsibility is not lost on me. So looking forward to lots of changes. Coming up, we have homecoming. And I'm adamant about, you know, welcoming back our alumni, but also friends. You know, I'm a life graduate. I'm pretty sure I am the first president of Palmer College, or in this position that is from somewhere else other than Palmer. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think that the science, art, and philosophy schools need to stick together. That's just my opinion. I think there's strength in numbers. We are definitely a science, art, philosophy school. We are a single purpose institution as well. So we are dedicated to chiropractic. That's it. So every person on our campus, and we remind them all the time, whether you are in the cafeteria, if you are a bookstore employee, whatever, we are all there to make sure that our students get everything that they need when they graduate. So, and I love that. I'm not so sure how I feel about my alma mater diversifying into, a university where I don't hear that word chiropractic in their name. So I struggle with that as an alum. And you see many of the other colleges doing the same thing. They dropped the word chiropractic, and it is a health sciences school. I don't know if that's good or bad. I feel like it's not a great thing. I feel like if your focus is off of your product, to me sometimes maybe the product might wane. I don't know. Did I say too much, Mindy? No? Perfect. So happy about the future, looking forward to it. Any questions at all that you have on Palmer, Florida, our campus? Anything like that? I mentioned there was a vaccination issue. Somebody said we're mandating all our students get vaccinated, which is crazy. And these are people that know me. Like, these are people that could easily pick up the phone and call me and ask me instead of generating this myth, right? The other thing is that we lost our way with philosophy. I'll probably say maybe fair enough on that one. But with change, I think there's an opportunity, right? So we're hosting this summer in June, the Association of the History of Chiropractic will have their conference on our campus. I'm really excited about that. I think just having that presence on our campus is helpful. Working with FCA and FCS together and equally great. Love having FCS coming to our campus next week. During homecoming, that first weekend in February, FCS is asked if they can have a booth. Perfect, great. I'd really like to see student FCS, FCA organizations back on campus. We'll see. See how it goes. Questions for me at all? Anything?
Why did you become a chiropractor, Bill?
Why did I become a chiropractor? I love that.
Tell me your
Yeah.
story.
So I wanted to be a teacher. So I wanted to be a biology teacher specifically. I wanted to teach. So I was having some neck pain. And my mother had for years gone to a chiropractor. And she would say, I'm going to the doctor, I'm going to the chiropractor. And to me, it was any other doctor to me. So I guess she had gotten tired of me talking about my neck. So she said, I want you to go see my chiropractor. So, okay. So she set me up an appointment. I went. The chiropractor explained very simply, what chiropractic is, the connection between the spine and the vertebra, nervous system, and adjusted me. And the moment I walked out the door, this is what I want to do. Like, it was that first adjustment. It was like so powerful to me. And at that time, I remember thinking that, why is everyone taking all these medications? Like, in my late teens, early 20s, like, we are an over-medicated society, and I really didn't think that deeply about many things, but I recognized that was an issue. And when I walked into that office, unbeknownst to me, and just explained it very quickly, what chiropractic is, and adjusted me, I knew from that moment on. Not only that, it was also the energy of that office. Like, I've never been to a doctor's office. There was no window, like, can I help you? Can you sign in? Where's your, how are you paying for today? There's none of that. It was good energy, big smile, hand out, looking in my eyes, how can I help you? It's like, wow, so that stayed with me for a long time. So that is why I wanted to become a chiropractor. So part of like how I was thinking about how we treat patients in general, medications has got to be another way, and that experience. So my mother was the one that really, I'll say, that has convinced me to be a chiropractor. It was that one moment. Interestingly enough, when when Palmer landed in my community and I was happily practicing there and they invited me over, I wasn't even thinking twice about working there. I don't know why, because education is a passion of mine. I was thinking clinic, education, I left that behind. And if it wasn't for that dean that reached out to me and said, hey, did you ever think about, apparently not, I hadn't thought about it. So being open to that opportunity, I think lent itself to bigger things for me, apparently. Who would have thought Palmer, Florida would land in Port Orange, Florida? Who would have thought I would move to Florida? And I didn't think my two passions would ever come together in such a fantastic way. You know, I love teaching. I taught Care 1 for years. Did you have Dr. Carleo?
Yeah.
So that course was so dear to my heart. You'd get all of the students coming from all walks of life, and you're there to teach them how to palpate the spine and give them that, they're like blank canvases, you know, like give them that positive start where, you know, it's a non-threatening environment, we laugh together, you know, we just have a good time, and then we give them what they need to move on into the other classes. So when I had to give up that course due to my administrative role, I handpicked her predecessor, Dr. Terry Payton, because she embodied that warm, you know, inclusive nature. And then from when Terry moved back to Davenport, from where she's from, she's now teaching back on the Davenport campus. Again, I had the influence to get Dr. Carleo to teach that class, so I was very happy that I was able to influence the direction of that. So, yeah, my story. Anything else at all? Never thought I'd be campus president. Been in this position since June. Going well so far. A couple little challenges along the way. There's always some challenges. The big challenge is making sure quarters are getting what they need, happy, and trimesters trying to make that a good experience for them as they come in, but not an easy feat at all. And I mentioned a little earlier to someone in here that I actually think the president position is a lot easier right now for me than the academic dean was. Academic dean was rough. It was, you know, I was equipped for it, but it was difficult. Trying to make everybody happy was really tough. My role now is just to oversee the kingdom, making sure everything's running properly, influencing things where I can, and engaging the alumni, which is something that I'm really looking forward to doing. So we want to make sure that they are welcome to come back on campus, come speak, come you know, meet with our students, give back, whatever they'd like to do. I'd like to see more alums on campus. If you're able to come to our homecoming, if you've been to one in the past, and it's the first weekend in February, I want that to look different. This is the first year that I'm the campus president. We can get our credits anywhere. We can get them online. We don't have to meet. We don't have to get together anymore in Florida, right? So I want it to be different. I want it to be inclusive. I want it to be interactive. I've already made several changes. They're probably thinking, oh gosh, you know, Sherrier, did we make the wrong decision with him? Because I'm changing the look of everything about it. And the last piece of that is we have not engaged our students with homecoming. I don't know why up to this point. I wasn't in that mix there, but our students are going to become our alums. So like, why are we not engaging them and offering things for them during homecoming? So partly because in the past we didn't have the space, because now that we have building 4, our brand new building, we have plenty of space. So that's not an argument, you know, against not having them. So students will be included as well. So anything for me at all?
Can you tell us a little bit about the clinic experience?
Clinic, yeah. So clinic is a mentorship model. So I don't know about you, but when I was in school, we didn't have a mentorship model. So they told us we had 250 adjustments we needed, X amount of x-rays, you needed so many x-rays, patient encounters in terms of exams, and we had all our numbers, go. So, and in Georgia, every adjustment had to be watched, and we had to have somebody in our door all the time. So when we were ready to adjust, we pull the curtain open, I'll come back. We would pull the curtain open and look down the hall to see if there's a doctor that could come by and sign off on us, right? Sometimes you look down the hall and like, oop, not that one, go back in the door, pull the curtain and wait, open again. Oh, perfect, here comes Dr. Carmen. So that's how we rolled. And so we had a variety of doctors coming and going, no one really looking out for you, mentoring you. So our mentorship model, the students have an opportunity to choose. They get 3 choices, their first choice, second choice, third choice of who they'd like to work with. And it might be a doctor who's more inclined to do pediatrics or sports chiropractic or functional neurology or something like that. So the students can choose who they'd like to work with. If they don't get their first choice and it doesn't work out, we try to figure it out and get them to where they need to be. But they always have that one person that they can go back and forth to, which I like, So even when I started there as a clinic doctor, there was no mentorship model. The students could go to any module they wanted to. So I would see some students, or those students would go to another module, but then we had just gotten too big and then we needed to figure out a meaningful way to mentor students. So we came up with a mentorship model. That doctor is responsible for maybe about 20 students max within the clinic. So it's almost like they're the doctor and these are all the associates working for them. So that doctor's in charge of making sure that they're delivering safe care first and foremost, and also making sure that they get to graduation. They have all their numbers, things like that. They always have that go-to person. If they're having a tough time with a patient, whether it's their personality or they have a tough neck to adjust or whatever, they can always go to that mentor and have that mentor come in and help them, rather than trying to pull somebody off the street like we had done in the past. We are moving towards, we're trying to de-emphasize numbers in a way, because I think when we push numbers, we push, okay, I'm gonna get my 250 and I'm gonna stop, I'm done. And I've heard from students like, oh, I don't see patients on Friday. What? I come in for hours, but I don't see patients that day. That's not in my realm. So our quality patient care initiative is what we have now, where we start skill development early on. So students are starting in their 4th trimester. Quarter students, our campus has always started soon. So quarter students would start in 5th quarter, hands-on adjusting. Trimesters, it'll be 4th trimester, which is roughly like 6th quarter. So 4th trimester is when they have their clinical skills labs where they can actually adjust in the classroom under supervision. And we have a technique open adjusting lab in the evenings where they can adjust each other and get those numbers, like get your skill up. So by the time they get to clinic and starting to see outpatients, they should be pretty proficient in their adjusting. Now the focus is going to be on quality patient care. So we are going to manage our patients to what the patient needs. And we're going to not worry about numbers so much, but we're going to make sure that they have what they need and get the students out of the mindset of like, oh, once I hit 250, I must be an amazing adjuster. I don't need to adjust anymore. Like I don't need to practice anymore. Right? So, and there's other things involved with that quality patient care initiative, but I think it's a good one. I think it's, we had a recent CCE site visit and we had to do a lot of explaining on that because we were going outside of what they're used to, I think. But I don't know, I think it's where we need to be. I think it's what we need to do. Palmer, their aspirational term is that, the phrase is that we're the trusted leader in chiropractic. So if we're not being bold in certain areas and recognizing the product that we're churning out, we really need to like take the initiative and kind of see if we can make some changes there. So I think it's good, I think it's okay. I'm not so sure they understood what we were talking about, but we explained it anyway, and we did okay on our site visit, so it'll take some time. Anything else about clinic?
No, that was great, thank you.
We're trying to open up along similar lines. You know, we all did our most of our numbers we had gotten on campus. We're looking at opportunities to get out more. So we work with, is it Stuart Marchman? So substance abuse, we take students out there. So the clinic opportunities for them to go off campus to get some different experiences. So we're trying to open up more of those kinds of things. Had some really good conversations with Halifax Hospital. They have a huge rehab department. They're looking for to partner, having like conservative care offered before patients go on to surgery and things like that. So we're talking with them a little bit about having students rotate through their rehab department, with bringing chiropractic care. I'm okay with that. Department of Defense, we have a pretty big presence with the VA hospitals as well, getting in there. So I think these opportunities would be good, getting students off campus, to get more meaningful experiences. So I think it's a good way to go. Anything else? Any student questions?
As far as the clinic goes,
Yeah.
is there like a platform for students in the clinic to kind of educate people outside of the Port Orange community, just patients in general?
It's up to the individual. That's a good point you're bringing up. It's up to the individual module that they're in and the mentor. So that mentor, they have, there's certain criteria they have to meet as well. So they have to go out into the community, because you're showing the students how to go out into the community and do certain things. So some mentors are really good with it, others are not. I think that's a really good, I know where you're going with that. And I think that's something that I think is important, like have a lay lecture, like we can have one once a week, invite the public in to educate them on what chiropractic care is. I think that is a really good idea, because up to now we've just left it up to the individual mentor. So, anything else?
Who's your speakers for Lyceum?
So Lyceum Homecoming, I've been so busy trying to change the look of all that. That's our continuing education department. So I've been so busy making sure that this is an inclusive, engaging event. I didn't really look at the speakers so much, but it's on my mind though, because I too have to have CEs, and when I go and all I hear, not necessarily at Palmer, but I've been to other CEs, and all I'm hearing about is rehab and soft tissue work and we're going to work up a patient, and here's a case. And I remember it's next to Mike Sherrier, and I said, did they adjust them at all in there?
Gotta go to the FCS for that.
Was there an adjustment in there? And he's like, I didn't see or hear one. I'm like, so
Nothing on history or philosophy?
yes, there will be, yeah. So one of the things in Davenport, they do a philosophy tent. So in the evening, they have a tent and they bring in and talk philosophy. I'd like to do that in
Sherrier does
February.
that also.
Yep. So, yes, bringing philosophy visible back on campus and making sure the
It's not
students are exposed.
philosophy in principle, it's chiropractic.
Right, exactly right. So, and part of the reason why I didn't engage with the continuing ed for this particular homecoming is we pretty much have the same lineup as what Davenport just had in September. So they have that contract where they'll come over and speak. But you can rest assured that I will be involved in who's speaking at February of 2025. You'll probably see a little bit more different lineup. So, because I do everything in a very nice way, so they have a tendency to go along with what I say. Well, I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I'm really not used to speaking without a PowerPoint. Had I known this was here, I would have been, no. I would have not have stepped outside of my comfort zone. So I usually like prompts, so I did enjoy speaking off the top of my head a little bit. Hopefully you were able to follow along a little bit.
And through your heart.
Yeah, of course. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter that I have at Palmer, Florida. We do have a really great campus. Sometimes I think our students don't recognize how great we have it. I say just go to another campus. Go somewhere else and see. We have an amazing campus. And ever since I started back in 2003, I said this college has the opportunity to do something really great at this campus, and I think it's coming to fruition. I think when we align our calendars and curriculum. You have these 2 strong colleges, I think, 2 strong campuses, 1 college. I think that we're going to be in a good place. So anyway, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, David. Pleasure. Thank you very much to Dr. Sherrier. And my daughter's at Palmer, Florida, so I did get a chance to interact with some of the students, and I hear some of those same things from out in the chiropractic world about, are they teaching philosophy and these different things. But when I interact with the student in my house or talking to them at dinner, they seem to be asking the right questions and things like that. So I think thoughts like that are overblown quite a bit. I am very excited that you're making sure that everybody gets everything in the right direction. Our next talk will be toward the end of January, and we have had some field doctors brought up the idea of having a technique hour prior to the Saturday Night Live. So in January, that will be from 6 to 7 o'clock, and then from 7 to 8 will be the speaker. And we'll let the students kind of drive what they want to hear. Tonight I went through some old school things that I learned that I think are very, very valuable. Practicing your Gonstead chair with the bicycle tire, getting those thrusts. Up at Mount Horeb in Wisconsin at the Gonstead Clinic, they would have us on the pelvic gym benches doing the body drop, and you're supposed to do like 50 of those every day, doing your toggle recoils and just really fine-tuning the art, and so we're going to do that the hour before the lecture. It will be open to what the students want to learn, what doctors are available, but we're hoping it'll bring more students up here. Okay, so live from St. Augustine, it's been Saturday night.